All the men on the cover look disgusting, not attractive at all. So it's kind of like funny.
Secret attempted overtures.
Mm-hmm. We'll see. I kind of love those salacious old ones.
That's great.
Because they are sort of shameless and they reveal the sexism of the time, but also how nothing fucking changes.
Yeah.
And everybody always wants stories about rich people and stars.
Yes.
And, you know.
We love that celeb goss. We love the hot goss.
Yeah.
Steamy.
Anyway, we'll see.
Should have Gable's Men, too.
Actually, what's the copyright on this? 88. Oh, God.
Bad year.
Actually, that's the year of our movie today.
Oh, what do you know?
Yeah.
What a transition.
Do you hear something?
Hey, Victoria.
Hi, Chelsea.
Do you know what I could use right now?
No.
A breath of fresh movie.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm.
That's a movie I like to see.
This is a Breath of Fresh Movie, a weekly podcast where me, Victoria Harley,
And me, Chelsea Pope.
we watch a movie that neither one of us has ever seen before, and then we talk about it. Yeah, it's pretty fun. And we talk about whatever we want. Mm-hmm. And that might be anything.
Yeah, there may be spoilers ahead. I mean, there will be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We won't cover everything, though. So
you should still watch it.
you should still watch it.
If you haven't.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, my mother is a regular listener, and sometimes she listens to us before she sees the movie. And I'm like, why do you do that? No, don't do that.
Mm-hmm,
but she's like, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
So maybe we're not that spoily.
Maybe not. Well, maybe it entices her.
Yeah, well, she's also
she's
just
enticed.
very nice and supports me in my efforts here. So thanks.
What if she
Mom.
didn't listen to this episode? What's this one episode she doesn't listen to?
I'd live with it. It's fine.
Oh, okay.
I know she cares.
So chill.
It's good.
I love that.
We're all good. This week's I don't like what the hell that was going. Do you know what our movie is this week?
Oh, I think.
You think so? Because
think.
I mean, you watched it, right?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? We're doing the 1988 action comedy Midnight Run.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Just kidding. I watched it.
It was great. It's directed by Martin Brest, who we have covered one of his films before.
Oh yeah, you may or may not know the iconic movie Geely.
Iconic is a nice way of putting it.
What are you talking about?
This director, the last film he made was Geely in 2003, and it kind of killed his career, which is crazy because he's done a lot of really great things, and this is one of them.
And Geely is another one of those.
I mean, that movie was, to his credit, taken away from him and cut very differently.
Interesting.
And I'm not saying that the original was better, but it actually seems to fit his like style. We'll talk a little bit more about some of the other movies he's done, but he does a lot of these kind of action thriller
Could
comedy.
Geely have been good?
I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Could it have been as good as Midnight Run?
I don't know.
I just think J-Lo and Charles Grodin, tomato, you know, so similar and dynamic. When we're talking about a buddy road trip type of movie with a mobster, Ben Affleck, Robert De Niro, you know, he is the Robert De Niro
of his
time.
generation. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, I would never. I guess all I'm saying is that it feels like this is a genre that Martin Brest is off. Like he's made a good career out of this. You know, like he did Beverly Hills Cop. Again, not my favorite movie, but very much one of these action comedies. You know, it certainly projected him into this like place of kind of importance in Hollywood. He also did Scent of a Woman, which isn't, again, not my favorite movie, but it still deals with kind of like people in crime or criminal. Like he seems to be interested in these sort of crime genres.
Right.
And because this movie is...
But more about like the dynamic of the people. Like seems like that's a framework, but then when it comes to the back and forth, he does seem interested in just seeing the actors connect or exude their charisma.
No, totally. I mean, this is an example of where it really works. Like, and it completely relies on the chemistry between the actors because this is such a formulaic movie.
Yeah,
it's okay because the performances are nuanced, the characters are unique, they're developed. We learn a lot about their lives and their point of view, and it makes it just good. It's a fun watch because these, and it's not only Charles Grodin and Robert De Niro who are excellent. There's a lot of really great supporting players in this too, which we'll get into. For those who want to know what this movie is, maybe you haven't seen it and you're still here. When an accountant is guilty of stealing $15 million from the mob and is bailed out of jail, the FBI and the mob are both after him. Our hero, Jack, an ex-cop, now bounty hunter, takes the job of bringing him back to LA County Jail, for like $100,000. There's more to it than that. But really, it's the issue of, I've got this guy, I have to bring him to LA, and a bunch of people are after us, is kind of the vibe of the whole movie.
Yeah, this guy, Charles Grodin, who's the accountant, he's a hot ticket item. Yeah. He's a wanted man.
He's a wanted man. And, he's stolen so much money from a mobster that he's not even going to be prosecuted or caught by, these other people. Like, he'll be killed by the mob before that ever happens. Yeah. So, like, his life is constantly in danger. At any moment, something could happen. Fortunately, the mobsters are kind of inept.
Yeah, very inept in this movie. There's a lot of really shoddy gunplay in this.
There's some roughness. And the FBI appears to be behind the ball. Like, they're not... This guy, Jack Walsh, Jack Walsh is Robert De Niro's character. He seems to be better at investigating than investigators who work for the federal government. Yeah. That's kind of like ultimately what ends up proving to be true. I liked how we were learning just... How did people find people back in the day? I liked a lot of the analog tracking people down, PI stuff. For me, that's kind of just like, I like knowing how that was done. But forget all of that. What did you think? I want to know your first impressions. What did you think? What did you feel?
Well, I'll say I do agree this is a fun movie, and I can see why it has its fans and... so on and so forth. I think it could have lost a half hour. I think it's too long. As much as I really enjoy
it. It does go on a bit.
I enjoy Charles Grodin and Robert De Niro. They had a lot of fun chemistry. I think in light of the fact that it is such a predictable storyline, it's like planes, trains, and automobiles, but mob stuff, and that's another movie, a hot take. I also wish was slightly shorter sometimes, Yeah. And that's a very, very punchy comedy, whereas this is more like, I think the funniest stuff for me is when you just have the two of them breathing in a moment together. There's these kind of improvised bits that they do, and that's where the movie really takes off, is when you get to see Charles Grodin and Robert De Niro actually having fun with each other. Yeah. And I care so much less about the mob. Not that all these performances are very good.
Sure, I hear you. But
the
you
mob boss, the FBI, Mr. Pants.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my take on it. But it was an enjoyable watch, and I do understand why folks consider this underrated.
Yeah, it's like called the Casablanca of buddy comedies.
Oh, okay.
And part of that's because I think Casablanca was not expected to be a hit.
Gotcha.
Like people, while they were making it, they were like, what is this? What is it going to be? And then it somehow became a hit. So it's similar. My main criticism of it is the music is terrible.
It does sort of just come out of nowhere as this very sort of it's very like a bubblegummy action comedy music.
It is so
it's very 80s. It's sticky.
It's deep fried 80s, and it's also there's music in places where we don't need it.
Yeah, and because those moments I talked about that work the best for me are a little bit. It's more dry. It's more wit, as opposed to it being this like
action-packed thing.
Slapstick. I mean, there are definitely physically funny moments. There's physical comedy in it, but the music does give it this vibe that it almost is gonna be like a planes, trains, automobiles that level of like. That's another movie. Physical.
Yeah. And Tradesmen and Automobiles, another great movie that has very bad music in it.
Yeah.
For the most part. I mean, there's a few...
Of its time.
Yeah, there's a few... I mean, the whole mess around scene is great with John Candy. That's an exception. But no, I'm with you. And I also completely blocked this out, I guess. I watched this twice. And it was like, oh, Danny Elfman did the music?
Yeah, I was surprised.
Surprising,
Yeah, I was
'cause it's
surprised when I found that out.
So, I'm sorry, but I'm sure people worked really hard, and
Yeah.
it's very evocative of its time, but I really feel this movie deserves to be rescored.
Yeah.
I really believe that. Like, that's my take.
I'm not opposed to that.
Like, because I
think your take is valid, and
it doesn't match. I think what it is also is like, forget the aesthetics of it. It doesn't match the tone of the movie. Like what you were just saying about the dryness and the improv. It's like, this should be a lighter touch. This should be like a cooler.
And you expect it to be more like jumpstart slapstick. You expect it almost to be more high octane, silly, because of how
big the music is,
big and kind of silly, winky the music seems,
and like also just some at times like the way it was mixed against it's so loud. It's like so dominating.
Oh yeah, that was definitely a problem.
I did turn it down a little bit.
I hate and so many movies are like this too. You have to keep turning it down and back up. This is gonna be one of those for you.
There are a few moments with Grodin where he's working in a lower, quieter register, and you want to catch all that. And I'm not. I do put captions on a lot of things.
I had to do it for this one too, especially because that dialogue is so
rapid fire.
Rapid. It's kind of.
I didn't for this, but it was like one of those. I tend not to with comedies just because it often breaks the joke unless the closed caption.
You don't read ahead on it.
I can't help it.
Well, for what it's worth, some of the captions are not to drag the Criterion.
Not super accurate.
Yeah, it's a little bit off here and there, but it certainly.
There are times when you can tell the person was just like, I'm not doing all that.
Yeah.
Or sometimes it's inaudible, and I'm like, I know what they said.
Yeah.
That wasn't inaudible. You just didn't try.
Well, like with the whole opening sequence, there isn't really a lot of dialogue, and so there was no caption. I didn't know if I had them on, and then suddenly someone spoke, and then like a beat later, they popped up. And I was like,
That's
this
weird.
is a little.
That's a little
So it was a
off.
little bit of a pace thing. So
a little feedback then. Just a little feedback for the Criterion.
All the negatives aside, though, still a lot to like about this.
This is still an incredible movie. Like, we're being really, we're just getting this out because the rest of this is going to be about how much awesomeness came out of this.
For sure.
I think just like a first impression, though, and this is quite literally at the beginning of the movie, there's this, I'll call it a gag, where Jack is he's using his like, using a lockpick kit. He drops part of the kit on the ground, then a shotgun blast comes through the door above him while he's bent over, like picking up the tool. And it just reminded me of Arrested Development and like that like hot cop scene where Job is like dressed like a police officer. He's got the little boombox and he's at this motel and he like pounds on the door. He's like, boom, 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 police, open up. And he bends down to like open up his kit and like the same thing happens. Like a shotgun blast just like, through it. And he's like, he backs away real slowly. It made me think, I began to realize from that moment on that like, oh, this movie's in the DNA of a lot of other things. And although it is formulaic, and this certainly is not the first buddy comedy, it's not the first action comedy combo, it's not the first road movie where two people, like Odd Couple, you know, but these actors and their characters are unique, and it's like so worth it just for that.
Absolutely. And the chemistry is what elevates the material.
100%.
Because I think, there are some pacing problems I have with the movie. And again, if it had gotten the script had gotten maybe another pass or been some more trims, I think this would be a very fun, it is still fun, but I feel like it would have been a very fun 90-minute movie.
Yeah, no, I think, I agree. I mean, there was a part of me that felt like, did you write the script so you could just take a trip across America? Because we literally go everywhere. It is like coast to coast. We're in Los Angeles, New York, Ohio, Chicago, Amarillo, Texas. It just goes on and on and on. Vegas, there's a ton of... I love Dennis Farina. Like, he's barely in it, but his presence as Jimmy Serrano, this gangster who... His whole presence hangs over the movie.
Well played.
Oh, he is... perfect, and he's barely in it. It's just like a scene of him where someone comes and tells him something, and then a phone scene, and then like I'm walking through the casino with my goons. It's like he probably only had like a day or two of shooting, but he's so present like in everything, and I love how many lines that guy delivers in this strangely brutal way. Like,
Yeah,
you
he's
know,
intense.
he's so
He's
intense.
very intense.
And I feel like the people who made Snatch watched this movie and were like, let's just recreate that character again, because I don't know if you saw that movie, but he's basically the supercut guy. He's like the one American who, like, every time he has to fly over to Britain to go deal with something, there's this great like kind of cut of him on a plane knocking back 2 pills with a drink, and like, you know, it's like, oh fuck, I have to do this again. Anyway, I think Dennis Farina's fucking great in this. Is this more on number 1? Put more on number 2. I'm like, that almost feels like that could have been in the script, because those 2 mobsters who were kind of the bottom rung of that operation were so inept and so childish.
So much so, yeah.
He's not mad at me, is he? I thought the scene with the ex-wife and the daughter was
really good.
Wow,
really good.
So much silence.
Didn't expect it. Yeah, again, with all the more reason when the music sticks out, because there are these it's a serial comic. You know, the various moments in this movie.
It's incredibly grounded. Like, when, like, we don't learn everything at once, you know, and it's like we get to learn about these characters as they're learning about each other. Yeah. And what I love is that, like, Grodin is like, no, I'm gonna know more about you than you're gonna know about me.
Yeah.
Like, is this a love story?
It very much has that endearment factor, you know, when Walsh opens up to him, and then it's reluctant, and he's like, I see what you know, like he's very jaded and kind of sees through that, or thinks that, you know, Charles Grodin's character is just kind of fucking with him so he can eventually get away or manipulate him. But
Charles Grodin's actually kind of just being a sensitive mensch. Like, he's just. But it's funny, everyone describes his character as being irritating. And I suppose, you know, when he's talking about, like, you ever heard of arterial sclerosis? Like, all that stuff is like, it's a little bit, no one wants to hear that. But I didn't find him that irritating. I thought, like, everything he felt very normal to me.
I liked his energy, because I liked the attitude he had of, like, they're gonna kill me. Like, like he was.
I'm gonna have to give you the slip.
Yeah, he's like almost like as though he's accepted he's just kind of along for the ride in a sense. He's kind of much more at ease with what's happening.
He's very stoic, you know. And I think also his openness about, like, you know, oh well, I gave that money to charity, and he's like, oh, so a bunch of people you don't know can love you, and he's like, don't you want to be loved? You know. And there's this like pause, and it's like, I got plenty of people who love me, and then another great pause, and then, really? Who?
Good moments.
I mean,
good
just
moments like
the
that.
space between the lines, like the pauses are amazing.
Yeah.
Like that, and it's like, these are actors too that, like, I mean, the scene for me that's top and most is with the bus sales agent, like the woman who works at the counter at the bus agent or the bus depot, who they're running the credit card and it's not going through. Charles Grodin barely says a word in that scene, but he is making eye contact with her. He's performing with her. He's just they're constantly rolling your eyes, just shaking his head, and it's like, I've never, like, it's one of these great movies that you laugh so much at things that are wordless. Yaphet Kotto, almost all of his scenes are just him turning around looking really pissed at somebody who has said the dumbest thing.
He's that straight man. You need to see that office, the office reaction.
Is this gonna make me upset? There's a good chance. This is going to upset me. That was a line. I thought it's funny because Grodin, of course, his character pretends to be afraid of flying. And we find out later that's not actually true. But when he gives that anxiety attack on the plane, that is like an anxiety attack for the ages. That performance, like, just like no, these things, they're too big. They go down. Like,
it was very silly. I thought it was very, like, as a very transparent kind of over the top breakdown that he's having. But it works, and they cut to them walking through that train. He's just, I love trains.
He's like, why the fuck are you smiling? I love to travel by train.
He's just so, like,
I got my way.
I love to travel. But it's very, it's sort of like almost like that tactic is almost like he's getting out of going on the plane, but it's not as sort of nefarious or like this elevated, like, manipulation tactic that's happening. It's almost like, I just want to go in a train.
Just likes it better. what else did I? Just moments that were standing out. Those were the big ones.
And we need to justify that movie choice too, because if it was playing, the movie would have been over too soon.
That's true. It's true. Chorizo and eggs. That was a great moment with I think is it Teresa and eggs?
Yeah.
Chorizo. And when she described it, it was like, no, it's delicious.
Yeah,
It is
absolutely.
delicious.
A lot of diners. They had like four different diners in this
That's
movie.
so true. And I love the one where Jack has just lost the Duke. They got to give a nickname to some guy who stole a bunch of money.
Yeah.
But he loses Mardukas to another bounty hunter. And this is kind of near the end of the movie. And you can just tell he's like, fuck. You know,
low point, yeah.
Oh, at low point. Absolutely. And he's filthy because he's got like desert dust, 3 days of sweat, river water. Like they've been through hell and he's lost it. And he's so close. And then he goes, and we don't know, but the next thing we see is him entering this diner. And there's something about that scene that was like, I know that feeling kind of just being absolutely emotionally and physically defeated. And the hospitality of just somebody behind the counter can mean so much to you. And like the way, you know, the lighter isn't working. He lights the cigarette for him, gives him the matchbook. I don't know. There was something about that just, it felt true and real and beautiful. You know, and there's a lot of strangely beautiful things in this movie. As much as it is a funny action movie, it has a lot of like ethics and morals and heart. I mean, I hate when people are like, it has a lot of heart, but it really does.
No, just like Geely. Just like Geely, actually. It's a lot of heart in this movie.
Yeah, right.
It's a lot of humanity.
I think
Pathos.
I gotta say, my just one last favorite thing was the scam to get $20 bills. That whole scene from top to bottom was just perfect.
Just a solid scene. More of that, less other stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And it came so late.
Yeah.
That it was like, man, this could have been moved up and it would have been, you know, it took so long for him to trust him to do this gag or to do this like scam and uncuff the guy and all that. But that scene is so great. I mean, I love the guy behind the bar, the way his eyebrows just go up a little bit when he sees the badge. Like, whoa, okay.
Okay.
Litmus method.
Yeah.
And that's such a great... Well, I learned that Grodin was allowed to improvise. And that was one of those moments where...
you don't know what he's going to say. You feel that from the other actors.
Yeah,
like,
he's
what
like,
is he going to do?
litmus method? Like,
Yeah.
well, okay. Yeah, but that's right, totally appropriate for the scene because they're improvising together in this.
We don't know what this guy's going to do.
Yeah. The other scene that similarly Grodin was invited to improvise and truly like you need to emotionally break the other actor to make this feel real was that scene in the train car where, you know, he's like, I'm just talking to you for the rest of the trip and they're not talking. So Grodin starts doing both parts, you know, where are we going? Shut up. What, can you uncuff me? Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
And then he starts asking about like, what about those? You ever fucked an animal before?
That's like such a great scene.
Yeah, like or whatever he says about like there was some. You remember those chickens?
He finally warms up. He's like, a couple of them look good.
yeah, exactly. And the way De Niro breaks and participates in the joke, it's like it makes it real. It makes it feel the emotion of the movie or the moment is real. You know, and also just God, if you're lucky enough to work with Charles Grodin, why wouldn't you let him improvise? Like,
right.
Look at me like a human boy.
Look at me like a human boy.
We know he can do it. We know he can do it. We mentioned Yaphet Kotto. He plays the FBI, the lead FBI agent in charge of trying to find this guy, Alonzo Mosley, who we hear his name is a lot because Jack steals his identity and his real name is Mosley.
Alonzo. Yeah.
It's great. I'm Mosley. Philip Baker Hall. We talked about Dennis Farina. Tom Irwin, I don't really care a lot about, but he was the dad in My So-Called Life, which I happened to see. So, I love Mary Gillis.
On the noggin.
Yeah, Mary Gillis was great. She was the bus ticket clerk. Of course, Joey Pants.
Joey Pants
is Eddie Moscone.
Yeah.
John Ashton played Marvin, the other bounty hunter, who was disgusting but very funny. I mean, that like smoking or non, like take a guess.
Yeah.
He's just like brimming with smoke and filth. And Fran Brill as Dana Mardukas, the wife of Charles Grodin's character. She was a puppeteer on Sesame Street.
Oh,
she was like very much involved there. So
nice.
Yeah. This began as a script developed by the director and George Gallo, who based this character of Jack and Duke, he based it really on his own parents, I guess, and the way they used to fight. He thought it was really funny. I said, my father was very emotional, whereas my mother was far more calculating. She would let him talk and lead him down alleys, then strike like a cat.
Nice.
And that kind of does happen. You know, the whole like, did she hurt you? Yeah. Yeah. Are you okay? And like, no, it's fine. It's fine. But you said she hurt you. No, I didn't say that. Like, no, you made me say that. Yeah. You know? You're a grown man. You're in charge of the words that come out of your own mouth. De Niro was, it was funny because, okay, so this movie started out at Paramount, and this was Martin Brest. It wasn't his directorial debut, but it was his first time as being the producer of the film as well. Mm-hmm. And that became important because although De Niro was certainly regarded as like the greatest actor of his generation at this time, he wasn't yet seen as like a box office draw. Mm-hmm. Like he wasn't seen as this big glamorous movie star, which is just crazy. But De Niro really wanted to do comedy. He'd just done The Untouchables, and he was interested in showing people that he could do more than these tough guy roles.
By playing a tough guy.
I know, right? But he, comedy. He's trying to loosening the collar.
He's fun in it, but of course, he's definitely more of the straight man role.
Well, and he's at an interesting place because he's still got a little bit of that youthfulness, but he's starting to get a little bit silver. Yeah. It's De Niro had a really interesting time, I think, in his career. But De Niro's own agent said that his client would never be a star because he's, quote, just not seduced by glamour. Anyway, but they're going ahead with this. Paramount's excited because De Niro's still a good name. But Paramount wanted another big star opposite him. Again, they wanted somebody more bankable.
Right.
They considered making the character female just so they could cast Cher. Mm-hmm. They also looked at Robin Williams, which Brest wasn't interested in either of those options. And Paramount sort of dropped the project. They said it was because this is such a big budget. No, but really it's because
a bankable star.
Brest had the audition with Grodin and De Niro and was like, they're amazing.
They've got the chemistry.
Yeah. This is who we're casting. And they were like, Charles Grodin, to them this was like, why would you cast this?
Not this talented character actor.
How dare you?
Come on.
I know. I think you shared it with me, that tweet about we used to have movie stars like Charles Grodin. We used to be a society.
Yeah, it's true.
It's the truth. He was so perfect.
Who do we have like Charles Grodin now?
Nobody.
Not really.
Nobody.
Yeah.
There's nobody like Charles Grodin. That's part of it too.
I mean, Robin Williams. I'm sure the improv would have been fun and maybe would have matched the music a little more.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, then I don't know about that even though, because
yeah.
I'm thinking about Cher, and it's like, well then. The tone of that would be so different because she's not like.
Yeah, and it's like, would she be like the Duchess?
I'm imagining her being a little more like she is in so many of her other movies. She's very good at playing kind of a very practical personality.
Oh yeah, no, I mean,
call shit out.
Totally
would be fun, but it's such a different flavor.
Yeah, and I think the studio was
snap out of it.
Yeah, I think the studio was pretty transparent too about it wasn't as if I'm not saying the problem is they want it to be a woman. It's that they want to cast a woman and have it be about her being a woman, and they want there to be sexual tension.
It would have been like a rom-com thing all of a sudden,
which I'm not saying that couldn't work. It's just that it's a very different movie.
That's Geely.
That's right.
That's Geely.
Fuck, you're right. We
could have had two Geely.
God. Grodin, he got permanent scars on his wrists from having to wear these handcuffs for almost the entire filming. They were on that tight, I guess. And De Niro shadowed bounty hunters and cops get into the role. Yaphet Kotto was not a huge fan of Martin Brest's directing style, which is a bit of I guess he has a bit of a perfectionist.
It's a bit tedious, repetitive.
Does lots of takes, lots of repetition. Yes, exactly. And as a result, Kotto kind of lost enjoyment in the process. But however, he did say he was also sick for most of the movie's production. He said, I had a fever and was under the weather for most of it. I was shocked it came off so funny. It sure wasn't funny making it. But his character is not having
the role. He channeled the character
exactly.
Pretty well.
Well, I mean, his character was not having a good time. So this came out July 20th, 1988. It made $5 million or so in its opening weekend. And eventually, altogether, it was like 81.6 worldwide. Whatever. I don't really care about the money so much. Just the
It
fact
was a
that
box office success.
it was a success, and the fact that Paramount was like, well, we don't want to make it's too expensive. You know,
Yeah.
it's like Universal ended up taking on the project because they had worked with Brest before on Beverly Hills Cop. So they were like,
Right.
we'll do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. We trust you.
Yeah, you're throwing out money. You're throwing money away.
Yeah, so rightfully
Yeah.
so. Roger Ebert was very impressed with Charles Grodin. He kind of pointed out that this guy has been in about as many movies as Robert De Niro, has been working around the same time, and yet, quote, never received the recognition he deserves, maybe because he often plays a quiet, self-effacing everyman. He is every bit the master's equal, and by the master, it's De Niro. Rolling Stone said De Niro and Grodin's energies are perfectly mismatched, the former tweaking his famous alpha male persona just enough to get laughs, the latter neurotic and deadpan, turning his fundamentally annoying nature into a weapon.
It works.
It works.
Yeah.
I went on Letterboxd to find
Yeah.
some ladies. There were still so
Awesome.
many male reviews of this.
course.
It was like, this one I love. Just this is Angela Ferragato said, "Is this the most romantic movie I've ever seen?"
That's a good one. It's
a good one?
It's true. There's good bromance.
Good, very good romance. And another from a woman named Madison. Imagine, okay, someone's getting shot, helicopters exploding. Danny Elfman, y'all are gonna love this. Cue the 80s jazz music.
That music.
I'm sorry to
That's
belabor
3
it.
out of 6 of the pages that Victoria's
Yeah,
holding
it's
right
just
now.
how bad the music is.
Yeah.
Finally, from the New York Times, Vincent Canby said, the perfectly serviceable premise of Midnight Run, which might have remained a perfectly forgettable action comedy if somebody hadn't had the inspiration to cast De Niro and Grodin in the leading roles. Well,
Yeah.
that somebody is Martin Brest. Let's give
So
credit.
yeah, I mean, he has a good eye for talent.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Then, yeah, I just at the same time though, yeah, had it not been such strong performers, I don't know if the same kind. I don't know if the script. Yeah, again, I think
Yeah.
even more forgettable. It's already underrated.
yeah.
You know.
Well, and it's funny. It's been on the Criterion this month, being August 2022, and I've seen a lot of Twitter, not Twitter discourse, but like I follow all the like little cinephile shit. So
Yeah.
people have definitely been talking about like, oh, so glad to see this on Criterion. It
Yeah.
totally deserves this treatment. Like it's such a classic. It's so good.
Right.
Like, and it's rewatchable. It's just as good. 30 years later, or
Yeah.
it's a fantastic piece of work. And yeah, Charles Grodin, like we just did not appreciate him enough. He should have been in so much more.
Truly.
It hurts my heart.
I mean, at least we got Clifford.
we got Clifford. We got some things.
We got some things.
And although I'm, loath to like direct people toward Louis C.K.'s work, I mean, he was a character in that show Louis.
Yeah.
He was the doctor who lived in the building, and I think one of the greatest things he ever said was just like, he has a 3-legged dog. He's taking out for a walk, and he's like, how many legs does this dog have? He's like, 3. He's like, no, enough. Look at
Yeah.
his face. He's totally unaffected. Doesn't care. Like he's just gonna keep going. Like, and just that. There were a lot of really great meditative
Yeah.
moments. That whole thing about, oh, the reason your back hurts is because our evolution hasn't caught up.
Yeah.
We're using a clothesline as a flagpole. Like, I mean, it was a great character, which makes the whole,
Yeah.
it's steeped in.
That's it. Yeah. All to
tough.
say that, like, yeah, because then his work goes
A little more
falls
missing.
under the radar.
Yeah, it
you
goes
know?
a little more missing. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the bummer, right, of writing off some of these things, is that like there are these really exceptional work of performers and
Yeah.
creators and all these people behind the camera we don't see. And
Yeah.
it's hard to write. I don't know. There's a great video store in South Pasadena called Videotech, and the way they kind of handle some of the Woody Allens and all these other Roman Polanski is like, okay, let's not throw away the magnificent performances that the women in these films gave.
Yeah.
Like Rosemary's Baby and
True story.
and I think that's a smart way to handle it. I
Yeah.
think that's kind to the people who worked hard.
It's a good holistic perspective. to
Exactly.
have.
So that's kind of posture I'm going to take.
There you go.
Wow. Other movies that were out at the time. Number 1 at the box office when this came out was Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah.
So number 2 was Coming to America, Crocodile Dundee 2, Big, and Die Hard. Now, what's interesting about Big is that Robert De Niro wanted to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And Penny Marshall, the director, wanted him to do it.
Uh-huh.
And the studio was like, not a big enough star. So they gave it to Tom
That'd have been
Hanks.
such a different movie. I wonder.
He could have done it.
I know. I'm sure it would have
Yeah.
been good, but it just would have been a
I know.
totally different flavor. I feel
Totally
like.
different. But it's just interesting when the studio like makes a call. And
Yeah.
in this instance, right, like the director fought to preserve or had the power to preserve that. Let's say that,
Right.
you know, I don't know the whole story about Big and Penny Marshall and Tom Hanks. Obviously people love Tom Hanks in that movie. It's
Yeah,
like people,
yeah. I mean, it's you know, that's an extremely iconic movie.
incredibly, but it's like
A lot of
interesting to
iconic
think
movies
that
around that time. I can see even more reason as to why this would fall below the radar in that time.
Oh my God.
In spite
And-
of its success.
Yeah,
It's
and
a lot
some-
of juggernauts.
And those are just what was big at the box office. Some other movies that were just out at the time were things like Beetlejuice, Bull Durham, A Fish Called Wanda, Cocktail, Willow. Willow was out.
Good year for movies.
Rambo 3. Just saying.
All right.
I don't know.
I don't.
Just saying.
Willow.
Willow.
Yeah. Stop. You.
I mean,
have
I think
Willow.
Beetlejuice is...
Yeah.
Wow. Something I
Danny
love.
Elfman again.
That's true. He did better on
He
that.
just, he put
had his-
it all into Beetlejuice.
Put
and
it
then-
on.
And then he was, oh wait, I got this other project. Midnight
Just-
Run. Oh shit. Oh, what is it? What is the log line? Action comedy. All right, here we go. Synth. That's good, right? That's good, right?
That's good.
That'll work.
That'll work. Yeah, it's bad. It's so bad. In 1994, Midnight Run it's never had a sequel, although people have always talked about it. And of course, now Grodin has passed, so and De Niro's quite aged. But in 1994, it was adapted into 3 TV movies.
Oh,
Don't recommend.
don't make it longer.
Yeah.
Don't make it longer.
I know.
Come on.
It was like after Midnight Run or so. I don't know.
They're
It was-
doing like the Richard Linklater version.
Exactly,
of
before
Midnight
the
Run.
Midnight.
Yeah.
God
Then
damn.
it goes full rom-com.
Before Midnight Run. That's like
That's funny.
That's a smashed up. Okay.
I could have
Where they
really
talk about
enjoyed
their
this movie where it's just that, like following them for like 90
that's
minutes.
what I'm saying. Like
that could have been
I
really
think-
fun. They could have done it Linklater style and it would have worked.
I mean, I think like it did feel like there were an awful lot of showpieces, you know, like there's the shootouts and there's the part where Jack shoots the tail fin of the helicopter.
I wonder if it's
and it
like,
goes down and crashes in a big ball of flames. Like, I mean, there's
I don't know.
so-
There's too many cooks for me in that.
It's a lot of
I don't think
stuff.
we need all that. Like,
there's like
strip that away and
two different car crashes.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so much.
it's like, well, we need but
the best
we
scenes
need
are-
you to do all this tropey stuff to fulfill these certain expectations, and the
Yeah.
music needs to indicate as well. Like
Yeah.
there's all this indicative type
Yeah.
of like mob action comedy stuff, and I feel like it almost it didn't need
gets
that.
in the
And
way.
you can still have
Yeah.
it be about this bounty hunter
Oh
and
yeah,
this
it can still be an action.
and this
movie.
guy with multiple hits on him. Like it can still be that, but then we could just have followed them.
Yeah.
And then occasionally they run into this person, and then we get this.
Yeah.
Oh shit, they've got this person
Yeah.
on them.
I mean-
and they get away. Oh shit, there's this person.
Yeah,
Like,
and it's not as if those scenes with the mob and the FBI in their own areas are. They're not as if those scenes go on long and long. They're pretty terse.
They're fine.
I think what happens is too many times where they all collide,
Right.
and it creates this big mess. And it's like, and I mean, I don't mean to be picking out because I really love this movie, but I agree with you that like it felt like it went on, and I think I could have just dined on nothing but De Niro and Grodin.
that's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah.
You know, yeah,
Yeah.
I know that's what. Yeah, and I'm agreeing.
absolutely.
I'm agreeing with
absolutely.
you.
No, for sure.
I think we were
that's-
robbed a little bit of, you know, I feel like there could have been, like, I mean, the
Yeah.
best scenes are the ones where there's like the least action.
Yeah.
So it's,
Exactly.
also, okay, so I mentioned there people have long wanted a sequel. Evidently, I don't know what stage it's in, but in 2021, a development for Midnight Run 2 was announced. De Niro is a producer, not a star. And the idea would be Regina Hall to lead. I don't know who she'd be with. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to sit here and be like, well, that'll never work. It's just that
Sure.
I think Midnight Run is not about its premise. It is about De Niro and Grodin.
It'll
That's the magic.
It's gonna live or die.
Yeah.
If that gets made, it's gonna live or die on the chemistry.
Yeah, and I don't want to say like it couldn't be done, because obviously this is a premise that, I mean, we've had Lethal Weapon and like there's so many of these types of movies.
Yeah.
It's like But I would be scared to try to take that on.
Yeah.
Because this is so one of a kind. It feels like, you know what they said?
Stop messing with the classics.
Well, like, you know that like there's an old proverb about like you never step in the same river twice. Mm-hmm. I feel like this was a moment in time and a crossing of paths that it's just one of a kind.
Yeah.
Like you can't replicate that. You can try, but you're never going to recapture it. You know, it's just...
Unless you're Gigli.
Yeah. I mean, that's why it's a movie. That's why the movie is a gift, because it captured that moment.
Yeah.
That's why it's like, that's why we love it. That's why we want to watch it. So I don't know. I think adaptations and remakes are totally fine. But I think I just think that I think we'd all be served to, well, I don't know. I wish more and more people were writing for the screen. Because, you know, if you take a glance at like the movies listed, it's often like something that's a sequel or something that's a reboot or a remake, or it's part of the MCU. And it's just sort of like, there's nothing, like everything is adapted from some sort of material or is taken from a book, or a book is turned into a series, or a movie's turned into a series. And
I'm sure you saw that clip that's been going around on Twitter from Hot Ones with Matt Damon talking about the fall of like of why there aren't these sort of like mid-budget types of movies that he used to be all about being a part of, and the idea that unless something is going to be like an immediate bankable blockbuster, which they don't care with all these IPs, you know, why we have 1,000 Star Wars things and Marvel things, you know.
No, it's true. When I looked, you know, whenever
they don't want to take that risk.
Yeah, when we do these and we look at like what were the other movies, it's like, oh, this is a healthy ecosystem of movies. There's like little ones, there's big ones, there's kids movies, there's stuff that's crossover, like we have like a monoculture going on right now.
I feel like we're starting, thankfully, to see some pushback on that. I think that's a big reason why
every week we talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, we're like, it's happening.
It's happening. No, but like we're starting to see, like, hopefully, I think culturally the tide will start to shift away from that. I don't know.
Trying to be part of that.
It is
trying to be part of that.
It is such a David and Goliath type of thing.
Yeah, but you know, that's the thing though, is like power, you have to remember like to not be intimidated by it, because like that shit crumbles as soon as people stop believing in it, you know? As soon as people don't care about that, I don't know. And so in some respects, I can't fault studios for doing what brings in money. I mean, I think it's unfortunate because the movie business is not a normal business. I think for them to believe that you can somehow have a list of film, like have no failures, is like no, you're gonna lose money. Like that's, the movie business is not a normal business.
Right.
And you can't guarantee these things, but I think tech has enabled people to believe they can. Like, oh no, the algorithm says this or the projections say that, but none of that stuff is ever going to give you like a new idea. It can only reflect like what exists, you know? And I have so much more faith in like the little brains out there doing like their strange brainy stuff. And I don't know. There's a lot shifting, there's a lot changing, and I don't know. It means it could change for the good just as quickly, I think, as much as things can change for the bad. So at least that's me trying to be optimistic. But buy your Blu-rays.
There you go. Get your physical media while you can.
Get your physical media. Just a couple notes. We've talked about Martin Brest before because we did cover Gigli, but just a reminder, his debut film was in 1979. It was Going in Style, which was a heist movie. It's a heist comedy. 1984, he did Beverly Hills Cop, which, by the way, was offered to Scorsese and Cronenberg. They both said no. He was
Cronenberg?
Yeah. He was the initial director of War Games, but got into a very heated argument with producers and was fired. So he was replaced. And then in 88 came Midnight Run. He actually appeared as the airline ticket agent at near the end. He's uncredited, but the whole like smoking or non.
Oh yeah,
that was him. He did Scent of a Woman in 1992, Meet Joe Black 1998, and then Gigli in 2003, and that was that. Also, I got to mention that because of this perfectionist quality, the Kubrickian kind of, which is maybe not great. The crew of Midnight Run quit after 5 weeks.
Wow.
So they had to hire a whole new crew. So
Good thing it made its money back for sure.
Yeah.
All the people you
But it's interesting that does seem to jive with what Yaphet Kotto is saying about how like this just got tedious.
That can get tough too, especially when you're making a comedy like that. That'll affect the energy. So
hell you will, yeah. And
testament to Charles Grodin and Robert De Niro's abilities and professionalism to be able to find humor.
No shit.
And still have chemistry under those circumstances.
Yeah. No, very professional. And I mean, it's possible too that, you know, the director was very much interested in them and their chemistry. He may have been neglectful, you know, of others.
Oh, for
like
sure.
That definitely happens.
Yeah.
Who's your best supporting player?
Best supporting player. It's a great question because
there's so many.
The thing is, everybody does a great job, and at the same time, they could have like kind of all gone away. That's my another hot take.
Hot take.
But I think based on like just the context of enjoying him in The Matrix, I like Joey Pants. You know.
He was dressed great.
He's very well styled, like as a schmucky type of dude.
When I was watching
the comb over,
when I was watching this with people, I was like, before I moved to LA, if I had watched this, I would have looked at him and been like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no, he's dressed like an LA bail bondsman.
Yeah.
He absolutely has that like, there's something about LA that allows you to dress a bit more like an asshole, like, and not be have it not draw comment. Sorry. Anyway, Joey Pants. I just wanted to.
No, yeah.
What were you saying?
That's all I had to say. Yeah.
I didn't derail. Good.
No, not at all.
Have you seen any suspicious characters around here? Nope. Do you live around here? Yep.
It's these moments.
These little moments. They're so good. And Charles Grodin, I heard somebody else describe, like when he passed away, I listened to his podcast that was doing a tribute to him, and one of the things they sort of were pointing out was like he knew what he was doing was funny.
Yeah.
And he didn't need any reassurance from anybody. Like he was just like, no, I know. I'm in control of this. I mean, watching this, God, it really makes me want to like work hard on a better deadpan. Like every time I see him, I think, God, I want to say less and impact more. You know, he's so good. It's so elegant.
Yeah.
Silence. Be comfortable in it. I'll tell you my best supporting player.
Sounds great.
I think I kind of already tipped it when I said Mary Gillis, the woman who was working at the bus stop selling them the tickets.
Just run it again. No.
Do you want us to call the FBI? I just love that. It was a good, you know, it's funny. Last week we were talking about Edie McClurg. It's like, again, this trope, right, of the customer service rep behind the counter being this like
obstacle.
Yeah, an obstacle because they are so part of another world. Like I recently for the first time saw The Killing, which is an early Stanley Kubrick movie, and one of the most tense scenes happens near the end in an airport, and it's dealing with like this perfectly like, okay, that's no problem, sir, we'll just change your flight to blah blah, you know, and it's like no, and it's I love the way that like, people have to run into the wall of bureaucracy or the and deal with a representative, you know. It's combat. It's like, you know, it's social combat. So yeah, big shout out to her. But, you know, I also love Dennis Farina. I don't want to see you two alive again. Unless, like, you know, he's so brutal. And I'm going to put this phone right through your head, stab you in the heart with a pencil. He just, I don't know. I believed him. Also, I love at the end, there's a scene in the airport where he shows up and he's in that immaculate white suit. And, you know, Jack is filthy. I mean, he's the kind of person that if you saw him at the airport, you would look away. You would pretend like you didn't see him because he was probably smells disgusting. He's covered in dirt. And there's a comment made about it. I love the continuity of that. Like everyone stays dirty, you know? And, you know, Farina, who plays Jimmy Serrano, comes in and he's in this immaculate white suit, white tie, white shirt. And there's this really, you know, in costume design, villains are always dressed really well. And villains often wear white. Like that's like we love
it's a status flex.
Yeah. Like it's a little terrifying and intimidating when someone's dressed really well.
Right.
It's like, ooh, shit. Like I'm scared of you. So it was just a great, you know, little moment. This movie works on a lot of different levels, I guess is all I'm trying to get at. would you watch it again?
That's a great question. I would have it as a casual watch in the background. If it was on, I would like, if it was on at a party, I'd start watching it for sure. I mean, there's a lot of great moments, and I'm really glad to have watched it. I don't think I'm gonna like rush to rewatch it.
Fair.
Also too, just like in general, road movies are a tough watch for me. I find them a bit tedious.
Really?
So, yeah,
okay.
yeah. But that's not to say. I mean, I'm someone I like planes, trains, and automobiles. I would like. So I feel that tedium and frustration. I'm overly empathizing with the straight man in these movies. Just like, God damn it, are we there yet?
I mean, that's fair, and I think that's part of what makes road movies great. Is that like
if you like them, you like them.
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah,
you know?
but it's often scenes of adults who end up acting like children.
Yeah,
because the stresses and the things just break you down. You know, the whole like, I'm not talking to you for the rest of the trip. Like, that felt like such a
test patience.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I hear you. So I mean, maybe you're empathizing and you're just like, I don't want to be stuck in this car with these people. There's something to that. Yeah. And I mean, I won't sit here and say like I love every road movie, but I kind of like them. So for me, this was, I would watch it again. I did watch it again. With other people, and I think it was fun to watch it with people who hadn't seen it.
This could be fun, more fun as a social
especially
experience.
Because like knowing what was going to happen, what Charles Grodin was going to say, and how the scene was going to go, it was just a delight to watch it
you
again.
turn to your friend, you're like, it wasn't funny.
I was just like, oh, this part's great. The part where Robert De Niro's whipping up a quick forgery on the flight, and there's that kid sitting next to him who's just looking at him doing it. He's like, how does this look? And he's like, pretty good.
It's great.
You can email us at abreathoffreshmovie@gmail.com. We're also on social media. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Letterboxd, all those places at Fresh Movie Pod. You can also follow Chelsea.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Chelsea the Pope.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Just that. Okay, cool. No worries. And I'm on Twitter at Criterion OOC.
Dope.
Thanks for listening. Tell me how much you hate the bear, and I will send you a sticker.